So, good evening. Thank you, Senator Jackson, Representative Treat, and esteemed members of the Trade Policy Commission. My name is Heidi Brugger. I'm a resident of Freedom, Maine. I'm also one of the founders of 350 Maine, which is a grassroots volunteer organization dedicated to addressing the issue of climate disruption. And I can understand the secrecy around this trade agreement because everything that's been leaked sounds absolutely horrible. So, and I haven't heard anyone really bring forth anything positive about it. So I'm wondering, why are we having to talk about it? It just really seems like it's a no-brainer that we don't like this and that it's not going to benefit people. I read online this morning statements from the chairman of the United Steelworkers, who pointed out that no trade agreements that we have entered into in the last 20 years have done anything at all to improve the job market in the United States. So this isn't about jobs for our country, obviously. My personal concern, however, is the impact that this agreement would have on the environment. Maine is already being challenged by its own DEP, which seems set on deconstructing protections that we have in our environmental regulations today. When I moved to Maine, it was a sense of pride that Maine and California were two states that had the most progressive environmental regulation. And it seems like everything that we're coming up against now is trying to dismantle that. I would like to see stronger protection against extreme extraction like mountaintop removal and hydraulic fracturing, and I don't see any opportunity for that in the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement or honestly in the transatlantic one either. We just can't afford trade agreements that push environmental protection to that lowest common denominator that Senator Patrick has mentioned many times, and I walked in here with that idea. It's like, if the lowest common denominator is that you can have this level of pollution, that's just not acceptable. And especially for Maine, because our water resource is going to be the next oil. The Northeast has some of the largest potable water resource on the globe. And if we allow the lowest common denominator to regulate our water resource, we're going to end up having to import water, which is going to be a crime against the people of the planet. I just would like to see, I champion your efforts, and I hope that in all of the discussion about food and the marine industry, you also consider the environmental implications of this trade pact. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Ms. Brugger. I know, I think back in the 124th, I chaired the commission, we actually did an extensive study on water extraction. So it is something that I think everyone on here feels very strongly about also. So.
It's the wastewater too. It's not just the extraction of our potable water, the wastewater. And I was in Colorado recently during the flooding, and all of their wastewater tailing ponds overflowed and polluted their agricultural fields. And that'll be true for decades. So we have to look at everything involving our water protection.
Yeah, Senator Patrick. Oh, I'm sorry. I think the senator looked at your notes before you came in.
I didn't have any notes, really.
I have to make a comment because as a former chair, one of the things I always used to say is we were soliciting testimony, both good and bad, about international trade agreements. And I will say that, although I don't like to admit it, there are some aspects in Maine as well as across the country that have done better under these international trade agreements. And I think more of them are dealt with multinational corporations than the smaller organizations. But I think if there wasn't some positive things that came out of these, that probably the citizenry would be totally an uprising, and those that handle the media probably bring forth the positive aspects of our economy versus the negative aspects of our economy, and that's why it's important to have citizens speak out. But I just want to say that we're not here just to hear the negative aspects. We would listen to positives.
I was waiting for positive, you know, and I wasn't hearing it.
I am too, and we're almost at the end of the list.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, man.